Geuzen, French, les Gueux, English. The Beggars was a name assumed by the confederacy of Calvinist Dutch nobles and other malcontents, who from 1566 opposed Spanish rule in the Netherlands. The most successful group of them operated at sea and were called Watergeuzen, French, Gueux de mer, English, sea beggars. In the 80 Years' War, the capture of Brielle by the Watergeuzen in 1572 provided the first foothold on land for the rebels, who would conquer the northern Netherlands and establish an independent Dutch Republic. They can be considered either as privateers or pirates, depending on the circumstances and motivations. Origin of the name. The leaders of the nobles who signed a solemn league known as the Compromise of Nobles, by which they bound themselves to assist in defending the rights and liberties of the Netherlands against the civil and religious despotism of Philip II of Spain, were Louis of Nassau and Hendrik van Brederode. On the 5th of April 1566, permission was obtained for the Confederates to present a petition of grievances, called the Request, to the Regent Margaret, Duchess of Parma. About 250 nobles marched to the palace accompanied by Louis of Nassau and Brederode. The regent was at first alarmed at the appearance of so large a body, but one of her councillors, Berlaymont, allegedly remarked, "N'is pas peur, madame, ce ne sont que des gueux." The appellation was not forgotten. At a great feast held by some 300 Confederates at the Hotel Cullenberg 3 days later, Brederode in a speech declared that if need be they were all ready to become beggars in their country's cause. The name became henceforward a party title. The Patriot Party adopted the emblems of beggarhood, the wallet and the bowl, as trinkets to be worn on the hats of the girdles, and a medal was struck having on one side the head of Philip II, on the other two clasped hands with the motto Fidele Roi, Jusque porta la Bissaci. The original League of Beggars was short-lived, crushed by Alva, but its principles survived and were to be ultimately triumphant. In the Dutch language the word Geuzennaam is used for linguistic reappropriation, a pejorative term used with pride by the people called that way, sea beggars. In 1569 William of Orange, who had now openly placed himself at the head of the party of revolt, granted letters of marque to a number of vessels manned by crews of desperadoes drawn from all nationalities. 18 ships received letters of marque, which were equipped by Louis of Nassau in the French Huguenot port of La Rochelle, which they continued to use as a base. By the end of 1569, already 84 sea beggars ships were in action. These fierce privateers, under the command of a succession of daring and reckless leaders, the best known of whom is William de la Marck, Lord of Lumey, were called sea beggars, Gueux de mer in French, or Watergeuzen in Dutch. At first they were content merely to plunder both by sea and land, carrying the booty to the English ports where they were able to refit and replenish the stores. However, in 1572, Queen Elizabeth I of England abruptly refused to admit the sea beggars to her harbours. No longer having refuge, the sea beggars, under the command of Willem Bloys van Treslen, made a desperate attack upon Brielle, which they seized by surprise in the absence of the Spanish garrison on the 1st of April 1572. Encouraged by this success, they now sailed to Flushing, which was also taken by coup de main. The capture of these two towns prompted several nearby towns to declare for revolt, starting a chain reaction that resulted in the majority of Holland joining in a general revolt of the Netherlands, and is regarded as the real beginning of Dutch independence. In 1573 the sea beggars defeated a Spanish squadron under the command of Admiral Bossu off the port of Hoorn in the battle on the Zuiderzee. Mixing with the native population, they quickly sparked rebellions against Duke of Alba in town after town and spread the resistance southward. Some of the forefathers of the Dutch naval heroes began the naval careers as sea beggars, such as Evert Heinrichen, the grandfather of Cornelis Evertsen the Elder. Geuzen symbols, as part of a propaganda campaign including prints, pamphlets and much else. Many Geuzen medals were created as badges of affiliation, using a wide range of symbolism, including that associated with the Ottoman Empire. William I of Orange sought Ottoman assistance against the Spanish King Philip II. The Geuzen were expressing their anti-Spanish and anti-Catholic sentiments. They considered the Turks to be less threatening than the Spaniards. During the years between 1579 and 1582, representatives from Grand Vizier Sokolu Mehmed Pasha traveled several times from Istanbul to Antwerp. The slogan "Leave a Turk stand PAAP" seems to have been largely rhetorical, and the beggars' medals in the form of a half-moon were meant symbolically. The Dutch hardly contemplated life under the Sultan. Moreover, there was no direct contact between the Geuzen and the Turkish authorities. The Turks were considered infidels, and the heresy of Islam alone disqualified them from assuming a more central role in the rebels' propaganda. In popular culture, the Geuzen are featured very prominently in Dutch and Flemish popular novels, such as Charles de Costa's The Legend of Ulenspiegel and Lam Godak, and comics series such as Corrie de Scheepsjongen by Bob de Moor, Tigel Ulenspiegel and De Geuzen by Willy van der Steen, and Giles de Geus by Hanko Kolk and Peter de Wit.